entire class. Well, I'm still working. I'm easier older. I'm saying so I'm ready to get out.
It's nice to like everything the way
Yeah, what you want, buddy? Yeah, you can put something in there for me, like what? Whatever you want. Just I'll sign it.
I can write a message if you want. You sign it?
Tell her what you want right there.
You have to write it. You have to text it.
Just say, you know me.
Tell me. Yeah, what do you want me to say?
Today took that on that. My friend MacDowell, McDowell.
Really focus on details and paint a mental picture and a mental scene just so easily, which I think is what really makes a great writer. And he also, I think anybody can relate to this book, can connect to this book because of the way that he just talks through the way he thought growing up, contemplation, action, responsibility to making things happen. He talks about his time in the war as a time where he kind of just went a little bit crazy and he got in this zone where it was about him in the way that he knew this is what he needed to do to learn to fly, but it was also his job, and that was the zone that he was into, and he was very disconnected from the rest of the world we lived in. He missed Woodstock, he missed the first man on the moon, because nothing mattered in that moment except for what he was doing. So it really, truly is an amazing book. I'm going to read one of the toughest parts of his experience, I think, in Vietnam. In May of 1970, I did have one expected and unwanted recess from war. Returning to base after a mission, we were met by Captain Fusco, the executive officer of the 192nd. Not good. Are we in trouble? He came to my door as I exited and asked if I knew W01 Robert Kirk. My heart became heavy. Yes, I do. We were classmates in helicopter school. Is he here? He said, I'm sorry to tell you this, but he was killed on a mission up in Plain Tree, His parents had requested that you escort his body home to Las Vegas for burial. I was silent for a moment and overwhelmed with emotion. We had only been here for 2.5 months. In disbelief, I said something stupid like, who said that? Can they do that? What do I have to do? I can't just up and go to the United States. Tell me it's a mistake. He answered, it's official. It came down from battalion, and you will go to Saigon for 2 days of training and team up with the body thereafter, and be put on a plane to Las Vegas. You will receive orders at battalion for the entire stay and return, and you will be briefed in Saigon for stateside contacts. What a blow. My good friend, a fellow classmate in flight school who had visited my family after training, and I in turn visited his family in Las Vegas, was killed in Vietnam in a mid-air crash of his helicopter. Bob Kirk died May 6, 1970. He flew with Company B, 158th Assault Helicopter Battalion. The Lancers at Camp Evans, Red Circle, assigned to the 101st Airborne Division, Airmobile. I walked with Captain Fusco to company headquarters, and he further briefed me along the way. He said, pack your bags and take your civvies, civilian clothes, and we will get you to battalion yet tonight. You will stay in the barbecue and get your paperwork in the morning and fly to Saigon out of Cam Ranh Bay. Have some fun if you can, and please come back. What did he mean by that? That brought back thoughts of Berwin Coleman, AWOL Marines. He mentions earlier in the story, Berwin Coleman had purchased his car right before he left for Vietnam. They didn't do the pink slip thing, and so that evening, his dad, my grandpa Ed, got a call from the police asking if my dad had owned this car. It was like a 1967 Chevy something, yeah, because they found it in the side of somebody's house. It was a Marine that had gone AWOL. So he brings him up again. Understanding now why he went AWOL. I should have been honored that his parents thought of me for the escort service, but I had mixed emotions. If it happened to him, it could happen to me. What a time to be selfish. In Saigon, the 2-day school was to understand the entire escort procedure and explained that I would stand guard on the airport ramp at each transfer between flights. As the body arrived and loaded, I would stand at attention and salute as the flag-covered casket was loaded and unloaded. Tears came to my eyes each time, many times. Some in disbelief of what I was doing. In Las Vegas, the funeral director backed up to the aircraft and drove the body to the funeral home. I was then greeted by the military command officer for the ceremony and was further briefed en route. Bob's parents, his brother, and 2 sisters met us outside, and tears rolled again. I didn't know what to say to them. "I'm sorry," was all that came out. His parents and brother were quiet. His sister tried to smile and be nice, but it was a sad time. It was a closed casket funeral as it was a fiery crash. I remember his dad had demanded to see the body as a child. The ceremony was the next day, and the family insisted that I stay in their home. The ceremony was with full military honors, having a 21-gun salute and local servicemen as pallbearers. Bob had been involved with the Boys Club of Las Vegas before he joined the Army. He had a big helping heart. The greatest act of kindness I have ever witnessed came from Mr. and Mrs. Kirk. They were grieving the death of their youngest son, yet they thought enough of me. How could they think of anyone while burying their own son? But they thought of me to provide a gift. Unbeknownst by me, Mr. and Mrs. Kirk had talked to the military command officer asking if my stay at the U.S. could be extended. The day after the funeral, they approached me saying, "We appreciate what you have done for Bob and our family, and we want to pay you back. We have been granted an extension of 7 days to your leave by the Major for you to provide comfort to us at that time. We want you to comfort us from Van Wert, Ohio. Here's your ticket to Ohio and back. Go pack your bags. We won't take no for an answer." I was in a daze and could not believe they could do that. They did, and I went home. I wasn't expecting that, and actually had mixed feelings about going home. He mentions earlier in the book that he kind of stopped writing his mom back and forth because he sensed her concern in the letters, and then there was one time he was able to call home, and he said he sensed her concern in her voice as well when he called home, so he decided to kind of stop writing letters as often. So it was hard for him to go home under such conditions. At that point, I didn't care what the Army would say. I will be back before they know I'm gone. I needed to listen to my away from home mom. I gave both a hug, and the next thing I knew, I was riding a horse with my dad in the green grass of home. I had a day of travel going and a day returning, and spent 6 days in the greatest place in the world that I could think of. I did go into town one night to verify that it was not just a dream, but did not enjoy myself. I wanted to spend all the time I could with mom and dad and other family, and there were many. I really can't remember many events that happened during this period, and my thoughts drifted to the reason why I was back in the States. My folks were happy to see me, of course. It was a solemn time that went too fast, and was probably harder on mom and dad than the last time we parted. Before I knew it, I was back in Vietnam. I don't know what the psychologists would call it, but after a few months in Vietnam, I went into some kind of a trance. I accepted the fact that I was in a place somewhere beyond my control, and I would be there for a while, and then I would wake up again. I also convinced myself that I had a job to do, and I would do it, and there was no other existence elsewhere for now. I was in the twilight zone, and it will pass. That seemed to work for me. That allowed me to concentrate on my duties, bide my time, and understood that a welcome change comes to an end. After the war and back in the real world, when people asked, "Were you afraid?" or "How did you cope with that?" I simply said that I was crazy for a while, and then all of a sudden I was home. They seemed to accept that, and I wasn't sure how to explain it in any other way. Now, in Las Vegas, that trance was interrupted, and I was going home. I was home for maybe 8 days. I somehow stayed in that trance, and I was able to return to Vietnam. I must have been like a zombie to the family. Years later, I saw some pictures of me on a horse with Dad, and in the yard with my cousin Pat, sitting in our pony-drawn sulky. I really don't remember that, or any of the 8 days there, or any of the flights to and from Ohio, or the flight back to Vietnam. The end of that chapter. There's also a lot of funny stories in here as well. And he just does this really good job. I have some notes about the 3 times that he got knocked out. None of them were in Vietnam. I can't find it, so I'm just gonna summarize it for you. I would say these boys growing up had a wonderful childhood. They literally got Red Ryder BB guns at Christmas time in Texas, just like in the movies. And there was a really funny story where they were in the back, they would pile up bales of hay for target practice, and his little brother Ted had wanted to shoot the BB gun, and he shook it and said, well, you can't, there's no BBs in here, see, you know, listen. I'm sorry, little brother Bob or Don, maybe it was Don, wanted to shoot it. Ted was the older brother, right? He's the one that said, well, that doesn't necessarily mean that there's no bullets left. And so he put the gun to his stomach, and he was like, sure it does, see? Shot it, and he said, went right into the pain, went through his abdomen, and his little brother Bob ran into the house saying, Mom, Dad shot, or Tom shot himself, but he's not dead. Rips off the shirt, flicks off the BB. So there's a lot of really fun stories about them. Their Tom Huck adventures in the rivers and the lakes, and he just does a really nice job. So I hope you all enjoy the book as much as I did. I'm a paparazzi. I see this.
Change my Facebook and everything. My substitute full school teacher.
There you go.
Yeah, I was joking with them one day because they're middle schoolers. I had a ruler. I was kidding, right? I get goofy. Have to taste for the shuffleboard.
They took the things away.
What?
They took the things away. Go say my dad. Hold on, Tommy, come here.